Hello, I'm so glad you're here. This is Gina from McGuire. I apologize that my voice is a little off, but I seem to have caught a bit of a cold. Now, I wanted to share with you this shorter video today. Yes, this video is shorter than most. I created a trifold house card for an event over on the Concord and 9th YouTube channel. It is an event where a bunch of artists share their favorite things from Concord and 9th. I will link to that video up here in the top right and in the description below if you want to check it out. But for the event, I created this trifold house card, and I thought it'd be good to have a video to go along with it to explain how I created it. So that's what I have for you today. Now keep in mind the products that I use in this video, I've used in a video in the past. You can see two of my cards here. One is this Celebrate house card with the balloons, and one is this 'Tis the Season holiday house. Now these two cards from my previous video are shaped like a house, and I show a lot of different ways to put these houses together. But in this video, I'm going to focus more on just that trifold feature. If you want to see more about the details of the houses, you can check out that previous video, which I'll link up here on the top right and in the description below. So this is the Concord and 9th Our House collection. There is a die set, an add-on die set, a stamp set, and an embossing folder. And it's really neat how these all work together so well, but you can buy them separately if you'd like. The add-on die set has additional windows and shutters and such, so if you plan to make a lot of these cards, you can get the add-on so that you can make the elements faster. And I have both the Our House die set and add-on on that magnetic sheet that you see here. So I used the large house die to cut 6 pieces of cardstock. So I have 6 houses here. 4 are in aqua sky color from Concord and 9th, which is my favorite color, and 2 are from white. Those would be the 3 panels of my trifold house card. I'm putting one of the aqua sky houses into the embossing folder. There are tick marks to line it up. When I run that through my die cut machine, this will create that brick texture on the background. Don't worry about the roof line. We'll emboss the roof pieces in a moment. So I did this process to 2 of the aqua sky houses and 1 of the white. So you can see them all laid out there. Next, I have a piece of white cardstock that is 8.5 inches long. I will score this in 2 places, at 2 inches and at 6.25 inches. From this, I will cut 2 3/4 of an inch wide strips. Now, I could have started with the smaller piece of cardstock before I scored it. I just wasn't sure how wide I wanted my pieces and how many pieces I wanted. But really, all you need is 2 pieces that are 3/4 of an inch by 8.5 inches, and you score them at 2 inches and 6.25. And I'm going to fold along the score line so you end up with 2 pieces that look like a Z. This will help us to connect our 3 house panels. Another option would be to create those connectors with acetate so you don't see them. All right, now between the 2 score lines on one of these strips, I'll put some adhesive, and I will lay my middle house down onto it, so the front house. So this is the front panel. The extra white house die cut at the top will be the back panel. So I'm putting the white house right between the 2 fold lines. Now we can add the back house. So this will be the house that you see once you open the card up. So I have it here, and I'm going to flip it over and line it up with the white house. So it's like those 2 houses are kissing. I will then put adhesive on this little flap sticking out the side and fold it over onto the back of that aqua sky house. And now I can flip this open. So there you can see that is the second and third panel of our trifold card. Now it's time to add the first panel. So I'm going to close my card up, and I'll fold back that little flap so it is lined up with the rest of the strip. I'll put adhesive on that flap. Then I will lay down that pretty final house. This will be the house that's in the front of the card, and line it up. By doing this, we're connecting all 3 of the panels along the bottom. Now, the reason I did it along the bottom is so I could cover those little white spaces in the middle with bushes when we assemble it, which you'll see. But again, you could use clear acetate. Next up, I have the other one, and I will adhere this along the back of my houses so that all the houses are flipped over here. I'm lining up the middle of the strip between the 2 fold lines with the back of the white house, and I'm doing this right along the bottom of the roof line. I will then attach it to the houses on the side, making sure that the gap between the houses is pretty even. Now your roof lines will overlap and we'll address that later. It really works out just fine. So now we can flip this over. There's our trifold card, and I will just kind of fold along these lines and make sure that everything lines up nicely. By the way, you might notice that parts of my roof tore on that aqua sky piece. That's because I used too much pressure in my die cut machine, and it's fine. It'll be covered up anyways. I'm also cutting a little bit off that left edge of the roof on the second aqua sky house just to help with that folding. Again, that'll get covered up. All right, now let's flip this over and put adhesive on the back of each of the houses. Then I will take the solid house die cut of the same color and place it on top, lining it up. So this just makes it so that the back of our house looks nicer. It also sandwiches in those strips so you don't see them from the back. And this is a lot of space where you could write your personal messages. Maybe you include some photos on here, or you could even decorate it if you wanted to add more. But I plan to write my personal message on the back. All right, so now let's flip it over, and there we have our trifold card base. Now, this is the fun part. You can decorate this thing however you want. I thought I'd first show you how to create the little roof so that it has the texture also. So I used the 2 dies from the Our House die set that create these roof die cuts. And you take the 2 die cuts and place them into the embossing folder, lining them up with the roof image in the folder. It's really easy to do. Then you close it up, run it through your die cut machine, and you have that great scallop roof texture on these pieces, and you can add them to your card. So I'm adding them with the glue tape. I'll tell you later why I chose that and not liquid adhesive at this point. But first I need to add the 2 solid roof to the front panel. This is the front house. I'm going to keep both of those pieces solid. For the white house, I'm going to trim a little bit off the left edge of the roof line, and that will tuck behind the roof from the first house. So you'll see they kind of touch there, and you don't really see that white strip between. Now the roof line over on the right of that white, I actually will change this up as we go. Right now I'm going to trim it down, but you'll see I end up changing the roof because I wasn't happy with it later in this video. Now we're putting a roof on that third house, and here I will just kind of fold along that. Part of that roof line there gets crushed, and I wasn't really sure what to do here. So I originally thought, let's just trim that off and then use a gray marker to fill in that white gap between. But you'll see this doesn't look that great, and I tend to be kind of picky about this kind of stuff, so I will change that roof line later. I'll show you how I address that. It makes it much better. But at this point, that's what I have. Now to cover up the white connectors on the bottom, I'm using some bush die cuts that I created using the die set. These little greenery elements are perfect. This one here I'm gluing down flat right over the connector, and it'll end up folding right along the middle. You'll see it wants to pop up because I didn't use strong adhesive. I'll add that later on. So that little greenery piece is folded, and it works just fine. Now on the front, I'll have these hang off so you can't see the little connectors that are sticking out the side. And this will end up making the card a bit bigger. So the house itself is 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. So with the greenery hanging out, I will put this into an A6 envelope, which is slightly bigger, and it'll work just fine, and I can mail it the same way. Now I'm tucking in some greenery that I trimmed down onto that fold line. So really this is all about adding pieces that don't interfere with the folding. So I'm constantly checking that everything is closing and lining up okay. So now it's time to put a little bit of liquid adhesive behind that. So at this point, I'm using mostly glue tape because I want to make sure everything is working before I glue it down. This is the first I've made of one of these cards, so I didn't want to have to start over if things weren't working out. And I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do along the bottom of each of these houses. And for the roof, again, I wanted to make sure it all kept folding nicely. I will add liquid adhesive later. Now check out the windows here. I actually inlaid the window panes. You do not have to do this at all. You could just let color show through, but I love that inlay process, and here's an easy way to do it. I have a piece of thin white cardstock there that I'm putting some Altenew double-sided adhesive on. I will then trim off a little bit of this to start with my first set of windows. I'll save the other part for later. Now I have my white window die cuts. There are different window options in the die set, which I love. And I will lay those white die cuts onto that exposed adhesive. Now the benefit of doing this is that I have a solid back to these windows and I have exposed adhesive in all of the window panes. So I'll use the same window dies to cut from a light gray cardstock. I believe this is Cobblestone from Concord and Ninth. And I will pop in the window pane die cuts into that exposed adhesive. So you can see how easy it is to pick up those little die cuts using a pickup stick tool with a wax tip and just pop them right into the exposed adhesive. Once they're all in place, I like to press them down with my bone folder, and then we can trim around the outside edge. So now we have this solid window that we can add to our card. Now you could save a lot of time by not doing that, but I love those details. Now we can decorate our cards. I'm not going to show all of the die cutting and creation of these pieces because really you could just follow along with the photo and it's not hard to do. I also show it in my other video. But what I did was create a bunch of die cuts, little window boxes and so on, and laid it on each of the 3 houses so I knew where everything would be and it would be nicely spaced out. This was the point where I decided those roof pieces that are meeting up in the middle there between the 2nd and 3rd house, I didn't like how it looked, so I wanted to clean it up. So I recut this white house roof piece. I trimmed a little bit off the edge and I'm adding it with liquid adhesive. I did go back and put liquid adhesive under the other roof pieces also. Then this house roof piece, I'm gluing that on. I didn't trim anything off. I put glue behind it. I'm letting that dry. And we'll come back to that in a moment once it's dry. Now I can start gluing together all of my pieces. I'm happy with how things look. I'm just assembling them. I change my mind a million times because that's what I tend to do. I use some of the tree dies from the Concord and Ninth Our House die set to create bushes of different shapes, and I just layered them in 2 different shades of green cardstock. By the way, all the cardstock I used today is from Concord and Ninth. The houses are from the aqua sky color, which I love so much. The flowers are from watermelon, which is my 2nd favorite color. The darker teal is peacock, and the grays are pebble, cobblestone, and mushroom. By the way, the lighter one is pebble. I misspoke earlier. Now for the sentiments on those banners hanging along the 1st and 3rd house, I used an older stamp set from Concord and Ninth called Spring Bunny Stamps. These happen to have sentiments with arches that fit nicely on those banners, but keep in mind that Our House stamp set has stamps that work on the banners also, or you can just put a longer sentiment at a bit of an arch when you stamp it. So I white heat embossed Hello There and Happy Spring on banner die cuts that I created with the Concord and Ninth Our House die set. Yep, those banner dies are included in there along with a lot of holiday and birthday things, but I just made mine a spring card because I'm ready for spring already. There's plenty of room on the back to write your personal message, but another option would have been to skip the 2nd banner there on the 3rd house where it says Happy Spring and just leave an empty spot there on that house to write your personal message. Now you can see I added a lot of details here, such as little berries on the trees in front of the 2nd house there, and little yellow dots at the center of my flowers. I used gold cardstock dot die cuts for the doorknobs on each of them, and I did inlay the window panes on all of the windows. I enjoy all those details, but you definitely could simplify this if you wanted to. So there you have a trifold house card. I know this is a little different than what I normally do, but I wanted to share it for 2 reasons. One is it's always good to see more ways to use products that I've shown in videos in the past. And also I'm showing it in that Concord and Ninth favorite things video. So I wanted to be able to show how I created it here. I'll link to that video and my other house video here at the end. All the supplies are linked below in the YouTube description. I really appreciate the time that you spend here with me, and I'll see you again very soon.